You weren't supposed to see that just yet, but it is on the topic of the day. Hello. Today's stream will be very chill, very passive, and probably very sleepy. So, if you need something to put on in the background, this might be the stream just for it. But for those who may not know, the skeleton behind the desk, in front of a large steaming mug of chamomile tea because I've been screaming too much recently, 'tis I, Ricky T. Bones, Detective Ricky T. Bones, out of the flesh. And, well, I like detective stories. I am one, myself. Every day I try to figure out exactly what I'm doing on this earth, and the solution continues to elude me. But for the time being, it's to entertain y'all, and, let me get the chilling out of the way. Ahem. For those passing by, or those who watch the VOD, we salute you, of course. We appreciate all chatters, lurkers, and such. And of course, we do appreciate anybody who leaves a like, as it does help promote us to the algorithm, and subscribes, because that funny number going up means I can get monetized someday. And enjoy your lurking, Mims. This will be a nice chill one. Alright, so, first things first, this will be the last stream you get from me for a while. I do have to go on break until August 31st for reasons that have been discussed. So, for the stream's sake, I think I'll go ahead and start ASAP. But first, how you doing, Dahlia? You and your healthy bank account, we can keep it that way? Also, if anybody don't know right now, it's Anadolna's birthday bash, so I did send a video message that did get played on stream, so I'm there in spirit, and I did pop in to say hello a little bit earlier. And I also managed to ruin my reputation as an Uma trainer. I tried the Taurus League and got shut down almost immediately with my paltry C+ Umas. Not one victory in that attempt. So yeah, maybe I'll try next year when I've actually got a sense of the game. Maybe more time to stream it or something. Anyway, but enough about that. I'm doing fine. I hope y'all are vibing. And without further ado, I guess I should go ahead and explain how this stream's gonna work. So, before me I have a pile of books, and I'm going to be bringing them up one at a time. And today's topic is basically going to be my history with mystery and how it impacted me to become the nerdy-ass skeleton you see before you today. Because, like it or not, I was an impressionable child, and everything I learned from books, TV, and movies, as well as my parents, because I was homeschooled, right? I grew up around a lot of media, like museum visits, libraries, DVDs, what have you. A lot of what I learned was through media. And so, of course, being an intelligent kiddo, I needed something to teach me how to think better, how to think more clearly. And in a way, mystery fiction, as well as history, but that's another stream, or another topic for another day. Mystery really helped me sort out my thoughts a lot better. It definitely didn't get rid of my stutter. I had to do that on my own, but it really helped me think out problems a lot better, and it gave me some other tools to use in life, but we'll get to that when we get to it. So, let's talk about, 20 years ago, maybe? Well, I'm 29 now, so definitely like 20 years, maybe 22 years ago, my family and I were what you would call middle to lower class individuals. We never had any extra money to spend on frivolous stuff like games and televisions and cars that were actually in our generation. Instead, we took whatever was free and ran with it, and whatever was discounted was our bread and butter. Case in point, the old I always checked out from the library when I was on a Star Wars kick back in the day. Let me just say real quick. I may be a detective on screen, but I have read every genre known to man. I have read mystery. I have accidentally stumbled into romance every now and again. I have read sci-fi, including Star Wars and other stuff. Like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is one I'm proud to have read. I barely remember a thing about it, except Thanks for All the Fishes. So Long and Thanks for All the Fishes. And of course, yes, I've read fantasy. In fact, that was my biggest library for a while, was just Ink Hearts and The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, all good stuff. But today's focus is about when I picked up the mystery genre. And that started not just with this book here, Encyclopedia Brown, but a little bit before it. So, way back when, there were these awesome books called Choose Your Own Adventures. And the way they were games, basically. They were games much like today's The Walking Dead or Batman, the Batman series, where choices mattered, sort of. And you could make choices within the narrative that would impact the overall story. Unlike The Walking Dead, it wasn't illusion of choice, and they basically just wrote to where you could rewrite whatever you were reading. Yeah, the Goosebumps ones were good. The Goosebumps ones were excellent. But what I really loved was the Star Wars ones that they released ages ago. I had an Empire Strikes Back book where you could literally rewrite yourself. You were a self-insert character in the existing story of Star Wars: The Empire Strikes Back. And you could go so far as to betray Luke Skywalker, join the Sith, and capture Princess Leia and Lando Calrissian. That was awesome. That was so evil, but I loved it. I loved those things. And imagine, if you will. So I read a bunch of those. I explore all the endings. Now I'm out of books. And they don't make many. Even when they did make them a lot, there weren't many like at my local half-price books or Barnes & Nobles or secondhand shops that I could just dive into. So I go to my local discount store and I see on the cover of one of these books right here, like 7 different mysteries for you to solve. Hey, Flash, welcome on in. We're just getting started on the gushing about mystery stuff. I was just talking about how I started with Choose Your Own Adventure books, which were like the modern day equivalent of playing The Walking Dead, but choices actually matter. God, they were good. But yeah, this one, Encyclopedia Brown, is an interesting challenge to somebody who's just slowly developing as a kid. Encyclopedia Brown is not a mystery novel. Encyclopedia Brown instead is a collection of cases geared towards children, and you are not allowed to see what the solution is unless you go to the back of the book. So alongside Encyclopedia Brown, who's on the left there, a kid, a 10-year-old I think, who solves mysteries out of his own garage for the kids in the neighborhood, and adults sometimes. You would have to walk alongside him through multiple cases, at least 7, maybe 5 per book. And there were only a couple of hints here and there described in the story. And at some point, like 17 pages in, the story would end abruptly and ask you, how did Encyclopedia Brown know that car was never turned on? And you rack your brain, you think real hard. And you look back through the pages like, where was the tell? Where was the tell? Where was the tell? And you're stumped. At least I was back in the day. So I was real stumped. And then you go to the way back of the book. And the reason they knew the car was never turned on and never hit the highway was because a child was sitting on the hood. Why is that important? A child would be crying out in pain if that thing had been driven all over creation. It would have been hot. It would have been hot under the sun. But that child was just sitting there, loving life as per usual. So it was really, really cool that there was so many little details that you had to look for. And so my mind got sharper and sharper. And I started looking more and more, poring over the words carefully. And that really built my attention to detail that's really transferred over to everything I do. And then the only downside to these books by Donald J. Sobel was that they are mysteries. And when you solve a mystery, there's no real going back, sadly. That's why I've been putting a lot of thought into my webtoon. Exactly, yeah. Description and visuals really do matter, especially for mysteries. And of course, I did indulge in the TV show that spanned multiple generations, I think. Hello, Honeybee. Hello. We just got started and we're digging into the first mysteries I ever solved as a kid with Encyclopedia Brown. The Case of the Treasure Hunt was good. I don't remember the gist of it, but I wanted to look up at my local library and see what I could find in terms of what's the word I'm looking for? In terms of like Encyclopedia Brown or the Hardy Boys, but I didn't get the chance to look at it because I thought of the stream way too late. And then life got in the way and all that. Well, birthday, I should say. Sorry. Got some hot tea and it's getting cold fast. But yeah, these were my first mysteries. And the TV show was pretty baller. Although I remember, so Encyclopedia Brown, if I recall correctly, was a drummer. And, at some point, we're doing great, B, thank you. Because it's the 90s, I think, is when that came out. I didn't remember this as a kid, but I watched it back a couple years later as like a teenager. And he says, "Dang, those drums are bitchin'!" in a kid's show. The 90s was wild, man. But that's the side there. I don't remember much about the stories though. It's been so long since I've read those mysteries. They were really good though. They were really good. They had some great characters. I don't remember the bully's name. Gotcha. Enjoy your lurkin', Dahlia. I don't remember much about the stories themselves, but I remember the bully was always in there. There was a female tough girl protagonist that basically was like Encyclopedia Brown's guardian because he was such a shrimp. And it was those little booklets stacked a good foot high because of how addicted I got to them. Sadly, I no longer own them, because I remember my rationale was like, once you've solved a mystery in a book, there's not much reason to hold on to it. So, I think I donated it to one of my local not-for-profits or something like that. Maybe Goodwill, maybe some secondhand store that was independently run, I don't remember. But I do miss them. So, these books fascinate me, but my mother, up until this point, was really used to buying me like stuff to read to my brother at night, stuff to read to her at night. So she kept getting me these cartoony books, and she kind of struck on gold with one particular series. And I've talked about the series before. This is the Miss Mallard series of mysteries. Miss Mallard is a children's book by Robert Quackenbush, and it's deceptively simple, yet deep. Like I said, it may look like a kid's book on the outside, but this thing is like at least 25 pages of clever writing. in only 25 to 30 pages, it sets up a scenario, it's got limericks, it's got charming characters, and it's got a crime. The one I most recently read, just because my mother held on to these, she loves the artwork too much to let go of them. Surfboard Apparel, do I remember this one off the top of my head? Because I read it recently. This had to do with a tribal war that was over land, over who sold what land, and then a gigantic, like, tribal stone washes up offshore, and everybody's happy about it. Everybody celebrates. The tribes are reunited, and then the stone goes missing. And there are 3 suspects on the beach. A big landowner who's trying to bulldoze everything, a shifty-looking scavenger who tries to sell everything he steals, and an old crew hand who just whittles away at ivory. And there's so much personality to such a small little book. Unfortunately, being the speed reader I am, I burned through these in a night. 3 of these in a night. Like, I remember distinctly, like, these were not enough. This was not enough. And so I only read them a couple of times with my brother and mother. I chewed through them like chewing gum. But they were good. They really stuck with me. There was even one based around Never Seen Surfboard Apparel. These are old books. And I think from my research, actually, Miss Mallard did get a cartoon series. But there was one, what's it? I'm trying to remember, because I read it recently, but I don't recall the title off the top of my head, but it had something to do with Texas and, like, a land grant, or maybe it was the Texas Declaration of Independence that, like, a family was holding on to. And they were holding on to it because their family names were on it. And there were a couple of cool clues. It was a family gathering. They were having neighbors over whose names weren't on it, and it was locked away behind a glass case. They had just hired some new help, a cook and a maid, and the maid always wore gloves working around the house. Then one night, before a big banquet, the paper goes missing. And there's fingerprints all over it. Why? Because everybody handled it the night before, so there's no way you can tell if anybody stole it. Or is there? The night before, Miss Mallard handily drops a little bag that's got some chocolates in it and asks the maid, "Could you please take my stuff out of there?" Well, there just so happens to be chocolate stains on the glass, and bada bang, bada boom, Miss Mallard saves the evening. There's just little clever things that you wouldn't really expect from a little kid's book like this. And more so, the other great series by Quackenbush, Pete Potter. Found out recently it's Pete Potter. Now, Pete is actually Quackenbush's son, I believe. And he wrote a bunch of mysteries involving him, and they are really good for short form mysteries. Like, I double checked this collection we have, and they're really clever. There was the first one. The first one in this series is all about finding a lost inheritance through the use of, like, clues and cryptic details from a grandfather who's just passed on. And there's all sorts of good stuff in this, and it's, once again, it begs you to puzzle solve. It begs you to look at the illustration carefully, listen to what everyone is saying, analyze how they're looking. And all of this, I'm just eating it up and learning how to spot lies, learning how to look for patterns as a child. I highly recommend, if you've got a kid, show them a good mystery. One that's preferably kid-friendly, obviously, but this was the kid stuff. This was the kid stuff. I burned through them, even as a kid. I comprehended them, Yeah, the art itself is worth collecting these for. They're great. And then, of course, I get to the big leagues. The Hardy Boys books. Sadly, I had a collection. I think I even had the Tower Treasure, but I gave them away. I don't know why I was a fool to give them away, but these are the books I remember the least about, sadly. Now, the Hardy Boys, for anybody who doesn't know about them, they are... As I'm talking about them, my bitrate goes to nonsense. I'll hope that it stays intact. But, they are crime-solving brothers, if I recall correctly. They may be half-brothers, actually. I don't remember exactly, but they were long books. And realistically speaking, you were more or less just along for the ride and not really, like, even me, I couldn't keep up with all the clues, all the little hints and details. They were just long books, but I found out recently that it isn't just one author behind it. I mentioned this yesterday, but Franklin W. Dixon, along with the sister series Nancy Drew, written by Carolyn Keene, are in fact teams of ghostwriters. They had guest authors drop in and out of these stories and make new novels. So whenever you go through them, they kind of lose continuity here and there. Like, sometimes the Hardy Boys are on good relationships with their girlfriends, sometimes they're on bad relationships with girlfriends, sometimes details get mixed up, maybe they're blonde, maybe they're brown, but they were so adventurous. Like, they got turned into games eventually, from what I hear. The Nancy Drew mysteries especially, I know that for sure. But you would not believe what a couple of kids could get into back in the day. Like, I think they stopped car theft rings. They found out about gold collections, like in the Tower Treasure. What would always start as a simple little inquiry always turned into some form of major plot line. And I don't recall off the top of my head, like, what was their due process. Yeah, the Tower Treasure, that's a classic one. You can always usually find these at your local library. You read it? Yeah, that's about right, yeah. And I recall, because I've been to Sunday school in the past, they had the Hardy Boys books in there. Then again, I went to like a Sunday school that also doubled as a public school, so it kind of makes sense. But the only thing I can recall about these books, sadly, is that the Nancy Drew books, they're good. They're good, don't get me wrong, but they're definitely geared towards a female audience. And I remember one time I was reading the books, and Nancy got lost in thought at a red light thinking about her boyfriend and his strong arms. It was like, yeah, you know, maybe I should just stick to the Hardy Boys. This makes me feel uncomfortable as I check my own noodle arms as a kid. Also remember, dragons don't cook pizza. That sounds familiar to me. See, I didn't really have that many book projects, although I did read books to get free pizza. See, back in the day, Pizza Hut had this reading program where they assigned you, like... No, that's right. They gave you a small form to fill out called Book It. And you were expected to read 4 books, write down the names and authors, and then turn it into your local Pizza Hut, and you would get a free personal pepperoni pizza. It was a great way to get a free meal. And easy, for me especially. Because I just burned through them. There's a Nancy Drew DS game? That makes sense. That makes sense. The DS is actually a really good platform for mystery games. Like, that's where Phoenix Wright got its start. Touch Detective was a big favorite of mine back in the day. My sister had it on her DS, and whenever she came around, because she was my father's first daughter, so she's a stepsister technically. Nancy Drew, The Hidden Stairs. Ooh. I wonder if there's a PC port of it. There's a lot of good PC Nancy Drew games. I know Mint Fantôme. Staircase? Something like that. Yeah. Yeah. Touch Detective was fun. I don't remember much about it. I just remember it being weird and being really fun to solve the puzzles. Yeah, it's been years for me too, looking at these books. I'm sure if I went to my local library, I could just check one out for fun. Maybe I will do that soon. Anyway, so this was pretty much my young adult years, or I should say before young adult years. Now, growing up, of course, we always checked out stuff, and one of the big series we had was Wishbone. Wishbone was a delightful little series about a small white dog with a brown spot in his eye that recreated various American classics like Treasure Island, what's it? Oh, The Odyssey. And it was always so charming, so charming. But the one that stuck out to me, being a mystery nut, was Wishbone, the Hound of the Baskervilles. And I initially looked like, when it comes to Wishbone, the great classics that are recreated are always the subplot, sadly. And it's never really expounded upon, and it especially guts the Hound of the Baskervilles as a story. So my father watched it over our shoulders, and he was like, "Oh, Wishbone seems familiar." I'm surprised. I'd be surprised if anybody hasn't heard of Wishbone. Wishbone was like a big edutainment name by PBS. It used to be on all... Was it PBS? Or was it maybe one of the offshoot brands, like DIC or something? I don't know. I don't recall off the top of my head, but Wishbone was a major part of my edutainment back in the day. But my dad watched it with me. I was like, yeah, that's not the whole story. It's not really a great telling. I was like, is there more like this? And he said, you know this is based off of a real thing, right? Oh. And so and I mean, Sherlock, for example. Like, this is Sherlock, right? There's been a whole lot of Sherlock hints throughout my life at this point. Like, I watched brain break cases left and right on Arthur, the teens hunting down Carmen Sandiego. There was plenty of mystery stuff in there. Carmen Sandiego is one I wanted to put on here, but I didn't grow up with it much as a kid. Great series, though. Where in the world is Carmen Sandiego is what I'm referring to. And yeah, that. Zack, I actually own a Zack jacket, now that I mention it. I have and still have a army jacket, an OD green jacket. And he is half of the reason for it. The other half is because I was an army nut back in the day. And I used to have Sergeant Stripes just like that. Was it Sergeant Stripes? I can't tell from this distance, but this was a good series. Let's see. What's next, if I can tell? Ah, okay. Now I'm on track. So, let's see. Can't do that again, so I'll just go with the flow from now on. Yes, there it is. The retelling of Hound of the Baskervilles featuring Peter Cushing was my introduction to Sherlock. And boy howdy was it a entertaining time. Peter Cushing is an excellent actor. He has been in many horror movies. Hello, Dank. Well, come on in. We're talking about the boring stuff. We're talking about my introduction to the mystery genre. But I don't remember much about this, sadly. I remember Peter Cushing playing the role eccentrically and elegantly. Oh, boy, what you talking about? Oh, thanks. Yes, I know. I'm actually very self-conscious about these just chatting streams. I'm always worried I'm boring, but people enjoy hearing you be passionate about stuff, so I just keep that in my head and move on. Bull and Bros have united. Yeah. So, Hounds of the Baskervilles was a great flick, but I don't remember much about it. It's a great story. It's like one of the few times where Sherlock Holmes steeps into the supernatural. Because the story is about a glowing, possibly like quote-unquote radioactive dog demon prowling around an estate at night, attacking anything it sees, and it seems like a warg or a lycanthrope of some kind. Yeah. There's been a couple of good retellings of the Hound of the Baskervilles. And thank you for calling me not boring. I appreciate that. But it was so good. It was so good. And of course, following this, I was like, okay, tell me, Dad, is there more movies like this? It's like, no, not really. There's only a couple of movies about Sherlock Holmes. They're all kind of the same deal. But here's what I can give you. The Casebook of Sherlock Holmes. It's a big old thing. It's like a coffee table book. Hello to my favorite brother. Aw, how nice of you to lie to my face. I'm kidding. Hello, Noonie. How you doing? So we're getting into the meat and bones of it. Not gonna lie, I would tell your brother the same thing. Well played. Well played. Yeah, definitely a B movie. Definitely ready to be a B movie. Like Sherlock Holmes, there have been multiple instances of Sherlock Holmes out there. Like there's Sherlock Holmes in 21st century. That's Duck Dodgers I'm thinking of. There's been the Sherlock created by Benedict Cumberbatch, or made popular by Benedict Cumberbatch. There's been Robert Downey Jr.'s Sherlock, the Sherlock games, the point-and-click adventures, the parody that's now getting turned into a real game by Draw Me a Pixel, which is something I'm really looking forward to. And it's so good. Sherlock Holmes is such an underrated, narcissistic, oddball of a character, and every bit of media I've seen him in that's not the books never does him justice. He is much weirder in the books. He is addicted to several drugs. He is uncouth. He is more brutish than he is in any media. Like every media except maybe Sherlock has depicted him as too kind. But he gets stuff done. And the OG, yeah, the OG. And the only downside to these books is that you never see inside Sherlock's mind. You're in the shoes of Dr. Watson because he narrates all of these, if I recall correctly. And you see it from his perspective, whereas most mysteries I've read up to this point, you really get an inside look into what they're deducing. And that's kind of the fun part about Sherlock Holmes, is that he is an enigma. You never know what he's going to do next. Sherlock Holmes in the 22nd century, yeah. I've seen a couple of episodes recently because my roommate loves to do compilations of like nostalgia and put them up on YouTube. And he's been doing a couple shows I've never seen before, like Sherlock Holmes of the 22nd century, Mighty Max, stuff I never really given the time of day to. Mighty Max is also one I should have been watching because it has Rob frickin' Paulson in it. He is an ace voice actor. I love him. But yeah, I think the ones I do recall the most is definitely Murder in the Rue Morgue, Hound of the Baskervilles, The Death of Sherlock Holmes, which was tragic to read. And let's see, there was a whole bunch of stuff. But here's some great trivia for you. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle is the author of this, yes. But did you know that because of his attention to detail and his great artistry with his writing, that he was actually contacted when the police, the London police, the English police, were stumped on a case? He was actually invited to be a guest inspector on occasion. Now, if that doesn't sell you on reading this series as a mystery fan, I don't know what will. Yeah. And because of this, the biggest thing that I forgot about Sherlock Holmes until I played the games recently is that I forgot that he has a plethora of knowledge. And it's not relevant knowledge, it is just a compendium, a fly net, a sticky fly net of information gathered. And so because of this, I was like, okay, that's a really great idea. And so I started dabbling in all sorts of different subjects. Yeah, he's worldly. I think the term, that's not a bohemian lifestyle. Yeah, but he is worldly and well-traveled. I'm not exactly well-traveled, but my father is. And so I started doing the same thing. I started reading all sorts of random stuff. Like, if I found a kid's science book, I would pick it up and just digest it. I would pick up a world geology book, and I would digest it. And I would do this so many times. And I've got really good at it. I've got really good at just digesting and retaining information. It serves me well to this day, actually. Like, there's all sorts of stuff that's still in that fly trap. I don't think I could pull it off the top of my head, but, you know, it's definitely there. I've still got a bunch of random books that are textbooks in any other regard. Like, I want a psychology, physiology, anatomy, World War II, World War I, and one by Alan Alda, but we don't get to that one. Kind of funny. As a kid, the library used to be swarmed by kids during the off-school hours. Now most adults don't read unless they have to, or if they're forced to. Yeah, it's a tragedy, but it's not for lack of trying. Like, media has just evolved to where it can become more visual and more engaging. A book, you know, even Carl Sagan himself said, in a house library, if you wanted to read a book a day, and you started from the left of the wall to the right of the wall, you would only get a sixth of the way through. So, always be picky about what you ingest as a consumer. Because just doing it for the sake of doing it is never going to get you anywhere. Yeah, exactly. And your imagination has to key in. Your imagination is a very big part of making books enjoyable. To that point, actually, Cake has told me on no uncertain terms that he cannot read because of that. His imagination is so vivid that because he's a filmmaker. I think I've told you guys this before. He's a filmmaker, and so a lot of what he does is visual. And when he reads a book, it's a movie that starts playing in his head. And he gets overwhelmed almost immediately. And the same thing happens to me. Like, I start imagining these scenarios in my head. I get lost in the sauce, but I enjoy it. I am there with the popcorn and I am ready to get lost in it. It's so good. Of course, by that point, this has to be like 2004, 2005-ish. My mother got actually intrigued by another author because I'm still a kid at this point, right? I was born in 96. I'm like 10 years old, and we like to go out to the movies every now and again when we can afford it. And being part of homeschool groups back then, my mother's a Catholic, and of course she would try to lump me together with other kids of religious kind. So one time we went with a homeschool group to go watch a movie. I don't recall if it was sponsored by the theater or it was like paid for by the homeschool group. But we went to go see The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And it was the remakes. It was the one with Liam Neeson as Aslan. Mom was sewing her, just not Catholic. Yeah. Interesting. But we went to go see The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and it was amazing. It was amazing. The CG for its time was stupendous. The music, the acting. Like, Mr. Tumnus back then was a shock. A satyr. A satyr on screen with no bullshitting. We could see his hooves, we could see his legs, and we thought they were real. And there was... You haven't seen it until recently? Is it that much of a cult hit? Dang. But, the author behind the original Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe was G.K. Chesterton. And my mother, like I said, I think I'll straight up say this. I was really sheltered as a kid. And whenever my mother picked up on something that was somewhat protective or religious or okay for me to read, she would double down on it and start putting the books in front of me and saying, "What do you think of this?" And so obviously I read The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I don't recall much of it, but I do recall finishing it. Prince Caspian, which was awesome. And then I don't remember the last book in the series. Oh my god, Bible Man. Have I got stories about Bible Man? Oh, is that a tangent worth going down? Yeah, sure, why not? Let's talk about Bible Man for a second. Arthur and the Invisibles. Ooh. Yeah, if I never see that suit again, it will have been too long. It'll have been too short. Yeah. Okay, so Bible Man, for anybody who doesn't know, Bible Man was essentially, what if you took Batman and Star Wars and tried to put it together to be a Christian-friendly show? It was freaking wild. It was by Wayne Weibel, I think, and it was so weird. It's had like 3 generations, not enough budget, and am I allowed to curse while I'm talking about Bibleman? Yeah. Yeah, Christian Batman with a lightsaber and the armor of faith or something like that. It was wild. There was even like hackers and all sorts of nonsense. A guy ate a roach on screen one time, and your boy... Are they in the Invisibles is one I'm gonna have to look up, B. Thanks for letting me know. But, I actually went to go see one of his live shows. It wasn't Wayne Weibel, obviously. It was way too late to do that, but it was weird. It was weird going to see Bible Man in person. The suit was amazing, though. I think he had the shining armor on, which was like... Yeah, I saw the live show way back when. It was like hosted at one of the local Protestant churches. If I recall correctly. I don't think it was at a Catholic church. Supposed to go, but bad weather and car trouble stopped us from seeing most of it. You weren't missing much. It had a lot of audience participation, which was pretty cool, but you weren't missing much. It was a stage play, and not a good one. Yikes. Yikes, yikes, yikes. That's a weird omen to have on the road to a Christian show. But yeah, Bible Man was wild. Definitely look up the clips about it if you want to laugh. It was crazy and cheap. Really, really, really cheap. But the reason we get into the Christian side of things is because G.K. Chesterton, if I recall correctly, was a Christian of some kind, maybe a British denominational Christian. Oh god, yeah, good luck dealing with this, B. But G.K. Chesterton also had a mystery series. Christian entertainment as its finest. Oh my god. Oh, Furiosa. Furiosa is another great one. There was some great dance numbers in those VHS tapes. Cypher was also a rad dude, but anyway, I'm getting distracted. So G.K. Chesterton actually had, let's see. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention one more thing. You see this? That is a coffee table book. That is the entire works of Sherlock Holmes by Arthur Conan Doyle. And I think I got that for a birthday gift one time. I'm surprised they snuck it past me. Yeah, it is. I misdescribed it online, but it is a foot tall, approximately 6 to 8 inches wide, and at least 3 inches thick. And one mystery in there takes up about 17 pages, so that's how condensed it is. Maybe 20, 27, 30 pages. One Sherlock Holmes mystery in there takes about 30 pages. So it is condensed. It is only to read on a table. It's crazy. Ah, here we go. This is the mystery series by G.K. Chesterton. A crime-solving priest named Father Brown. So, let me paint a picture for you here. Ricky is a little God-fearing kid, and he's smart. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Makes you feel like those old British monks reading tomes. Yes, exactly. Yeah, that Sherlock Holmes book could double as a weapon. Yeah, Granny's Pasta Reddit. Yeah. Yeah, this, like, despite it being a Christian novel, this is a really good read, because Father Brown is a smart man and a priest. He is of the cloth, but he uses it to be sort of a angel of peace rather than a sword of justice. And he is just so funny. Such a worldly man. Such a worldly man to be solving crimes. But his attention to detail. His attention to detail is what really sells him. Challenge to pull too, yeah. He is always in the right place at the right time to receive such interesting information. But the key thing about Father Brown is that he is quiet. He never speaks up out of tone unless he has to. And when he is working on a mystery, he always looks at it with several eyes on. He is a humble man, and yet he knows the mind of an evil man. He understands each scenario, each angle. It is a good choice. Yeah, some finger food. If you need to go grab something to eat, this is the stream to do it. It is gonna be me nonstop yapping, and I am a-okay with being background audio. Yes, very intelligent. And because he's a priest, he's a missionary, so he's well traveled as well. But he understands the criminal mind despite being a man of God, and that's really what intrigues me about him. But not only did he have a great mind on his shoulders, a great brain in between his ears, he also had a really great TV series that I checked out growing up. This was also by BBC, published through PBS into the Americas. And it came on every now and again whenever we were channel surfing. Like, I used to watch nonstop edutainment back when I was a kid. And before, like, I think in the evenings is when he was on. This is Kenneth Moore as Father Brown. And those cases he got into were crazy. like, here is the accolades of Father Brown. Father Brown has turned a lifetime criminal away from his career of crime to become an investigator. He has stopped a cult dedicated to the Eye of Apollo. They stare at the sun and praise it, and he stopped them in his tracks. He has solved murders where there was nary a trace of footprints. And he is just... like, G.K. Chesterton was not afraid to go into dark places in modern society. He was not afraid to tackle things like adultery, sin, like guilt-free of sin, theft of church property. That's how Flambeau got caught. Flambeau is his career criminal turned investigator. And yeah, it's very rare for the time for a priest of all people to be meddling in the affairs of the high society and sometimes middling society. But Father Brown was really the people's champion in terms of investigators. He was like my Columbo before Columbo. And I need to figure out where the heck my copy went of his compendium. I used to have a collection of all of his stories, and I used to read them every now and again when I had to go, like, do laundry. But Father Brown taught me how to be patient and humble about looking at people. You know, be unassuming, not be unassuming, but rather be observant. And motive certainly helps. Like, thinking from both sides of the chessboard is what I learned from reading the Father Brown stories. Let's see, what's next? Ah! Well, of course, when you stare down the rabbit hole that is BBC Entertainment, and you're looking at all the wonderful mysteries, you're bound to run into a little pudgy Belgian man twiddling his mustache. Hercule Poirot. I think I'm saying that right. Now, if he looks familiar, it's because he has the most parodied story in all of mystery entertainment. Now, raise your hand, who here hasn't heard of Murder on the Orient Express? Think about it. In some way, shape, or form, you've heard about this mystery. Recently, Kenneth Branagh did a remake of it. Back in the day, there were all sorts of cartoons parodying Murder on the Orient Express. You haven't heard of Murder on the Orient Express? My God. Well, great, I can't talk about it now because that'd be spoiling it. But essentially, Hercule Poirot, he is based in, like, post-World War I times. You have heard of it. Okay, yes. The eccentricities of Mr. Poirot are simple, yet delicate. He is a talkative kind of detective, and even though he's a brilliant mind, the great part about reading Hercule Poirot is his humanity. He never has the full picture until the very end. So alongside him, you are discovering clues, meeting interesting folk, and all around the English countryside are these people who think they can just get away with things. And the series alone, the TV series in particular, is the one I'm most familiar with. And they do such a good job of giving you bits and pieces, crumbs of the murder at the very beginning. Like, they cast suspicion on so many different people that you will never understand who it could be along until the very end, when Hercule Poirot, played by the immortal David Suchet, I think that's his name, correct? Yes, David Suchet. Yeah, they have the best kind of human protags, yes. And he is so... He is so innocent of a man. Like, he loves his cognac, his cigarettes, his suits, his attire, like the whole shebang. The whole thing is a visual smorgasbord of delight. And Hercule Poirot also set traps for his suspects. That is the biggest thing about Hercule Poirot, is that it is always a developing plotline. He is clever about how he goes about things, and when he finally comes to the case, the end of the case, usually it ends in a chase. It ends in some form of another of being a dog chase. And they are so good. They are so good. The acting is spectacular. Hastings is your Watson for the day, and he is a simple army man who simply goes along and says, "Oh, you're alright, Poirot." I forgot who the inspector is, though. His name escapes me, but he's also plays the role of like Lestrade, where he's straightforward, kind of bullheaded, kind of regular standard issue detective. But Hercule Poirot handles everything with elegance. He is kind, he is gentlemanly, and he never clasps down. He never clamps down like a dog on the bone of the suspect until he is sure, because he is doubt-filled. He is not the perfect detective, and that is what I really love about him. But he's a man of justice. He's a man of good nature, and he's also a man who just wishes he could get away from it all sometimes. But he's funny, and that's the best part about him. Now, during my childhood, oh yeah, I almost forgot to mention the music, the theme music. Everything about this series really introduced me to the ambiance. Giving me juicy things to watch. I hope so. I hope so. They're good. They're good series, and a lot of them are available online. Like recently, I found these particular ones. I'm not sure if it's legal, but I found these particular ones on YouTube. The full 13th length series. It's a very short series, but they're 50 minutes long each, so they're good mysteries. But Hercule Poirot's score itself is so good. It is orchestral, and the very beginning of it is a saxophone. And the reason for that is because he is Belgian. He is in the French adjacent countryside. So of course it's an elegant little woodwind that narrates the intro theme. It's so good. But of course, growing up, I had a lot more than just the classics at my beck and call. We had, of course, Detective Comics' greatest hero, Batman. The animated series specifically. I grew up with that, watching with my older brother. And, you know, everybody remembers just the fights and the beat-ups and all the clashes. Like, they remember the intro, right? But if you dig deep into Batman the Animated Series, it was not just about being a superhero and fighting crime. Batman was human, of course. He was a millionaire with a computer as beck and call, sure. But he had personal trauma with these villains that he tried to calm down and bring to justice. Each time he would have to slowly unravel everything they were trying to be. And his detective work, the utility belt, everything about Batman is what embodies Detective Comics. I even had the old, like, very first Sunday issue comics. Batman treat people, society wouldn't treat people as people. Yes, exactly. He sympathized with them. The Joker, the Riddler, Poison Ivy, Harley Quinn, Clayface, and especially Two-Face, one of my favorite Batman villains. God, what I would give to play Two-Face in any media. I just love the Jekyll and Hyde aspect about him. And oh god, yeah, the ventriloquist. Oh. Yeah, there were some cerebral villains in that show. And it was about criminal psychology, basically. It was really about the rogues gallery and dealing with each one of them as existing cases, about criminal psychology and what led them to become as nutso as they were. And there was a lot of decent ones, like the Mad Hatter, or like the sleep hypnosis. there were some really great ones that stuck out to me. Roxy Rocketing was always Adrenaline Junkie, yeah. And I also read the Dark Long Halloween comics. Those were dark. Jarvis, that's one I don't think I remember. But there was some really good ones in there. Definitely check out the original series if you can. And Kevin Conroy. Kevin Conroy is the main reason you want to watch that. Oh, he was Mad Hatter. Yes. Yes. Mad Hatter was terrifying. I really did have a soft spot for Scarecrow, though. I just loved how he talked, how he acted. Of course, I do have to bring it to forefront the action side of being a detective. In this case, the Driver series. Now, if you don't know Driver, I'm not surprised. There was kind of a little war between Driver and Grand Theft Auto back in the day. This was like the classic war of good guy versus bad guy. Because Driver, yeah, it does have the same vibes, yeah. Twisted Metal was about battling cars. This is about smashing cars in hot pursuits. It's really cool, and Getaway. So Driver is about being an undercover cop and working for the mob as a getaway driver. Occasionally you're also a pickup driver, you drive vans, you drive all sorts of stuff, but it taught me so much about being in deep and being heartless for the cause. It was like my taste of Mafia before Mafia. And they really stuck with me because they were so well written. Like, they were supposed to be 70s, like, crime TV show tributes. Exactly, yeah. Like, it really introduced me to organized crime as a concept. Driver 2... Driver 2 was about international crime. You, Tanner, and your partner, Jones, were tasked with figuring out why Brazilian hatchet men were taking on lead in Chicago. And it all linked to a man named Pink Lenny. And so, first you get Blues Brother vibes with Chicago being the mainstay. And then you immediately go into, Havana? And it's so cool. Like, Havana is full of vintage cars and Latino vibes, obviously, and the music and the vehicles and the police were speaking. What language do they speak down there? Spanish? Portuguese? It was a full immersion into Havanan culture. Kinda. But it was an international mystery, and it was so crazy because not only did you have to go undercover, but you had to start working for the people you were hunting down. Solomon Kane was the man you meet in Chicago, and you follow up with him, and you befriend him and his man Jericho. And Jericho's this badass who's like dual-wielding double-barreled shotguns and wearing a big black trench coat. And there's so many lines I could quote from that series, but the main takeaway from Driver 2, Driver 1, and later on Driver 3 was the grit. The grit, man. The grit from all three of these being such hard cases to crack was so good. And seeing all these different places, like in Driver 1, it was all America. It was Miami, San Francisco. God, I hate those hills. What was it? Los Angeles at night. So good. And then New York to finish off the game by saving the damn president. Then Driver 2 sees you going to Chicago, working for the PD there, then to Havana, going all the way to Las Vegas, baby, and Rio de Janeiro. Do you ever expect to hear Rio when you think of a crime drama? No. And they sent you everywhere. and there was all sorts of good buddy cop stuff. But even like watching your partner get shot at, running down gunmen, running away with a truck that's loaded with explosives. Like, there was all sorts of great stuff that really fed my action addiction. And Driver 3 was like modern day CSI Miami stuff, starring Michael Madsen as Tanner and Ving Rhames as Jones. God, what great names, and God rest Michael Madsen's soul. And it was so good. It was like a maturing moment for me playing Driver 3. It was janky as shit, but it was great. It was great. And it really, like I said, it really taught me about the life of crime from the inside. We don't talk about Driver San Francisco, but we do mourn its loss. Driver went through quite a big change over its years, and not in good ways. Driver San Francisco was the last attempt at making it great, and it was good. It followed Tanner as he suffered through a coma and was able to like go around a virtual San Francisco controlling various people. It was a good game. Really bad car physics, but a good game. And of course, what I would be remiss if I didn't talk about Ace Attorney as a influence. Ace Attorney is a game, specifically the first one, that I have only experienced through old YouTube Let's Plays. I watched old YouTube long plays of the original DS version, back when YouTube was like in the swing of things. Like, it was like one of the first long plays I ever watched, and I loved every character. I loved the interactivity. And I'd be surprised this wasn't here. Yeah, exactly. It's really why I'm really looking forward to starting the series with Tony. Whenever I free up enough slots to. Like, now we have to finish LA Noire. I have to finish Minish Cap. We're gonna be trying. I'm thinking I'm gonna be trying to dot Ace Attorney throughout the week, because with Franky's was wild. Yeah, I do remember bits and pieces of Franky's gameplay. Man. I hope Franky gets his tech sorted out soon. I'm looking forward to seeing him in action again. Him and Twyla. But they gotta sort some things out audio-wise. I understand. Living two people in the same place is not easy to balance. Like, the Orion twins specifically, that's a miracle. That's a miracle they've got their audio set up together, because sharing one microphone and being able to compress it enough just to be audible in most times is impressive. I think for most podcast setups, you basically have to be kissing the microphone in order for it not to pick up your conversationalist. So I only wish the best of luck to Franky and Twyla to fix that up. But the Ace Attorney trilogy was very formative because it was about remembering evidence and seeing holes in people's testimony. And once again, it was all about listening and watching and remembering. But I was poor. I watched a lot of YouTube, I watched a lot of PBS, and of course, I was around, and so was the internet, when this showed up. Sherlock, starring Benedict Cumberbatch and, what was his name again? Martin Freeman? Yes, Martin Freeman, I got it right. Who here remembers the Sherlock, the endless Sherlock threads on forums online? Everybody talking about it. There was a Wholock craze, where the BBC basically ran everybody's lives, with Doctor Who starring David Tennant, and Sherlock with Benedict Cumberbatch and Martin Freeman. This overtook everybody. And this was around 2010, so the internet was in full swing. It caught fire. But it wasn't just a modern reboot of Sherlock. This version of Sherlock by Stephen Moffat, I think that's who the showrunner isn't just a retelling of the old cases. They modernized it with modern technology of the time. They brought modern forensics into the forefront. They made it more relevant with relevant factoids and terror attacks and vehicles and all the like. They even modernized Watson's character, who was a medic in World War I and now a medic in the Afghan wars that had been going on at the time. And he had that shell shock that still stuck with him, that twitch, that worrisome quiver. And Sherlock was the most accurate Sherlock I've seen. Benedict Cumberbatch's Sherlock was the most accurate because he was brutal. He was unforgiving. He was sadistic. He did not care. It was so good. And the best part about Sherlock was the transparency about how Sherlock's mind worked. Like everybody, like sure, there's plenty of parodies about how Sherlock's visualizations were, but they work. They work because I still use them to this day. When you visualize problems in front of you, it works. Like, you take problem A, problem B, solutions, possibilities. When you see me working, when you saw me working through the Sherlock game, and that mental map was in front of me, I closed my eyes, and I imagined the same thing, just ideas, and I verbalized them because I know the best part about Sherlock, this Sherlock in particular, is because you can follow along with what the detective is thinking. And so, that mind palace effect, it's a really great way to go about figuring out modern day problems. And I stole it. I literally stole it from this series. And even more so, yeah, it tackled it superbly well. Like, this was the most human Sherlock has seemed, because it followed him, not just John Watson's narration of him. But Sherlock wasn't the best part about it. No. It was the entire thing. Every piece of this puzzle we call Sherlock was at a 100% quality. Sherlock himself was well played, well written. He was narcissistic. He was drug addicted. He was experimental. He was mental. And he was proud. There was one episode where he was challenged by the serial killer of the day, because the serial killer was kidnapping people who thought they were the smartest and most intelligent, and he played a game of chicken with them. He simply handed them 2 pills and said, "Are you willing to gamble that this pill isn't poisoned? Because if you think it isn't, I will eat the other pill." And it was a game of wits and bravery. And Sherlock almost fell for it, because his pride dictated that. And that was a humanizing moment we rarely see for Sherlock. But not just Sherlock. John Watson was human as a troubled veteran. He looked out for Sherlock because of his lack of common sense. It was like, it was a ship back in the day for obvious reasons. But there was always so many side characters. Like, Lestrade was a great character. The forensic scientists were great. You know, it was like CSI meets the brilliance of Arthur Conan Doyle. But the best part, oh my god, was Moriarty. Moriarty in that series was terrifying. The lengths he would go just to test Sherlock was utterly terrifying. And I won't go into details because there are some spoilers I could tread on, but I won't. Instead, I will just say, you need to watch it. if you are a mystery fan, you owe it to yourself to rewatch this series. It's not long. It's only 2 seasons, and each season is about 6 episodes each. But they're movie-length episodes. You need to watch it. But the main impact it had on me was reshaping how I solve problems. How I saw the world, how I could redo my examination of anyone I interacted with. Like... Yeah, I'm due for a rewatch too. I think I have the seasons on hand. They're a DVD somewhere, but I could probably find it on like Netflix or something. But it really taught me how to like observe, detect. It really gave me the keys to the kingdom that all the other mysteries I had watched built on. Like sure, I learned how to see lies, half-truths and all that. But I'd never figured out how to rewire my brain to hold it all in. And Sherlock really helped me think like that. Because I think I've said this before, my stutter comes from a mind that thinks too fast and lips that move too slow. And so that series was really what helped me put my thoughts together. And it actually came in handy a lot of times. Like, the way people talk about certain things, I literally caught a friend who... I caught a friend in the middle of a conversation. So they told me one time when I knew them that they learned from their friend that they had learned how to say what is it? Do you have any weed? In like French, I think. And I shit you not, I said I said immediately back to them, so now I know what your vice is. And they looked at me with stunned silence. All that because I'm a mystery nut. There's so much I can figure out about a person just by talking to them now, and I owe it to these mysteries. It makes me a bit standoffish, like I'm always at arm's length with new people I meet. But everything is kept up here as I tap my skull with my non-existent fingers. Everything is up here about people I meet. There is very little I forget about people these days. And I want to say Sherlock and Sherlock Holmes mysteries are the reason for that. Now, at this point, I was deep in. I was deep into mysteries. I wanted more, and because Sherlock was so short, I kept trying to find more and more in whatever media I could find. I tried Gotham. I loved Batman. I told you all this before. I tried Gotham way back when. I don't remember what year. But it wasn't what I needed. It was just gritty. It was intriguing, yes, but it was a Fox series, so of course it went to campy Usual Suspects. And yes, Jeremiah Valeska. Holy Toledo, what a character and what an actor. I think I'm saying his name right. But the Rogues Gallery in Gotham is really what you want to watch it for. The detective work, non-existent. Yeah, he did. He went on to do a lot of other great stuff at the very least. But Gotham, you want to watch it for like its dark undertones. Like it goes seriously dark places. The Penguin, yes, the show stealer Penguin, and the Riddler, and the bromance they had going on. Like it's a great grunge pick. The Fish, yeah. The Fish, yeah. But it was a good series. It wasn't a detective series though. It was gritty. Don't get me wrong. It had great true crime elements to it, but it was a great retelling of the Batman story with Detective Gordon as the protagonist. Like basically it's just a slow burn series about how Gotham came to be and why Gotham is as screwed up as it is. Yeah, Gordon was unhinged. Oh my god, the vigilante arc for Gordon was freaking nuts. Oh my good God, the things that occurred in that series are worth watching. The acting was great too. The acting was amazing too. But that was one I'd binged. Of course, LA Noire was on my list at some point. Give me a second, hold on. Excuse me. LA Noire. Yeah, Falcone and Maroni, yeah. That gave me a great love for Mafia back in the day. I did play the original Mafia game at some point. That's a story for another time, though. But LA Noire, sadly, I didn't really get to enjoy it. I played through it. I played through it. And there's a reason we're replaying it now. It's because I understand the mechanics a lot better. But back then, I didn't really understand exactly what I was doing. I didn't understand the importance of linking key evidence or when to doubt, when to say truth. Now I got a greater understanding. I can see tells better. I know a lot more about life, for that matter. And it's helped a lot as we've been going through it. But this was my gateway into watching more film noir. I had watched a lot of black and white movies because of World War II stuff, but it never really stuck out to me how much detective work there was. Sleeping Dogs. Oh my God, this is a mystery nobody talks about. This is a cop drama, a Hong Kong action cop drama game. And you know what? It does GTA better than GTA because it has awesome vehicles, awesome setting in Hong Kong, the brightest place you could ever go to. It's got a badass soundtrack on the radio. It's got shooting mechanics that are decent, and it has free flow fighting. If you've ever watched a Jackie Chan film, you owe it to yourself to play this game. It's so good. It's such, like, firing on all cylinders. The acting is great. The drama is great. Yeah, it's worth completing. It's worth completing. Maybe not finishing, but it's such a cinematic masterpiece. I'm sad nobody really talks about it, but I'll never get the chance to stream it because it's loaded with copyrighted music. Great stuff, though. You should definitely check it out yourself if you got the time. And after a while, of course, I still enjoy TV. And at this time, a nostalgia TV channel popped up in my local network called MeTV. And I encountered a lot of good stuff there. I encountered Emergency, I wanted to really figure out what was coming next. I had my notes right here, but I need to work on the fly for this because we are going long already. We're not even halfway through. So we'll get to Columbo in a second. And we've got a lot to talk about Columbo. But just one more thing. The way I got into Columbo was a nostalgia channel called MeTV. And from MeTV spawned a love for many old series. Like, especially my father. Like, my father grew up with a lot of the TV shows they put on there. Like, The Rifleman rekindled my love for cowboy stuff. MASH was amazing because it was such a good show. It's a perfect medical drama. Night Court. Oh, God, yeah, Night Court. That's a good one. There was Kojak, which I rarely caught a case of. That's a good mystery series, but I didn't watch much of it. The Andy Griffith Show is a recent one we've been enjoying, and at some point, they started airing a weekend special. Every Sunday evening, they would play a Columbo movie, and I was like, "Wait, a detective series, you say?" I think the network didn't have, like, what was it, Barney something? I don't remember. There was another cop show, but it had Adam 12, Emergency, and then they started doing a weekend series every Sunday for Columbo. And I was like, this is a detective series? I need to tune in. And so every Sunday evening, I don't remember the exact time, but every Sunday evening would be Columbo night for me. And oh my God, Columbo is a masterclass in how to solve a mystery without looking like you know what you're doing. So let's talk about Columbo first. For anybody who doesn't know Columbo, first, you've never seen Johnny Matrigano. I understand that. It's understandable. Not everybody's into memes. But Columbo is a whodunit, where you know who done it and how. And the great mystique of Columbo is, what did they do wrong? At the very start of every Columbo episode, you are witness to the perfect murder. And it's always by some high society fella or lady or people who think they can get away with anything. And it all takes place in LA, if I recall correctly. And it can be for a number of reasons. You get to learn the motive, you get to learn the mode of killing, you get to see the murder weapon in action, and you get to understand every bit of it before Columbo comes on the scene. Seems like it takes after Monk. Monk is one I need to watch. I have not watched Monk at all, but I know it's a legendary series. But yeah, Columbo is an hour-and-a-half long special where you see the murder in gratuitous detail. And Columbo comes on the scene and comes face to face with the murderer. It's a jungle out there. No one seems to really care. It's got to be from Monk. And this is where you're introduced to the Columbo method. The Columbo method of investigation is to keep your cards close to your chest. Ah, it's a theme song. Gotcha. Keep your cards close to your chest. Never let on how smart you really are. Because the less people suspect you, the less people think that you're a threat, the more likely they are to make some form of mistake. And that is the Columbo method. Columbo is the unassuming, barely enough to make house payments detective, with a coat that's lasted him probably 20 years at this point. Exactly. And they always picture him as a bumbling fool. They always think he's an inept detective. Until he keeps coming back again and again and again. Oh, I didn't see you there, sir. Oh, sorry, I just let myself in. Say, you know, that ficus you got over there, that's a beauty right there, isn't it? You know, my wife, she has this wonderful Peruvian violet, and she just kills it every time she gets a new one. There's just no sense in the way she does things. Maybe you can show us some tips at some point. And then they segue into what Columbo's really there for. But the Columbo method works every time. And he never seems like he's got all of his together. But that's the real charm of Columbo, is that it is detective work without being serious about it. Yeah, he humanizes himself, compliments them, lets down the guards. And the beautiful thing about watching Columbo is that he is always in their face. He is this close. Like, the distance from the mug saucer to the image of Columbo there, to tripping them up, and the tension between the murderer and Columbo is the best part about it. And you're just sitting there waiting and watching, trying to figure out what they did wrong, and they're trying to figure out what they did wrong to put the Columbo on their scent, on their trail. And there's so many times when you think, oh, Columbo couldn't have seen that. Oh, there's no way. Oh damn. And he can even catch them without having a stroke of evidence. One guy steals an art painting from a gallery, and he hides it in plain sight in a simple little, like, Macy's shopping bag. And the reason that Columbo catches him is not because he found anything at the scene of the crime. And it's not because he found anything remotely linking him. No, it is because Columbo himself waited at home, walked in, and was like, "Oh, sorry, I was just wondering what's in the contents of this," and touches it without seeing it, without thinking about it, without thinking about it. He has incriminated exactly what the evidence is, what the stolen art is, and at the very end, he finds a planted art piece that was meant to incriminate somebody else, but he has the exact evidence he needs because they think they can get away with anything. That is the beauty of Columbo, is that there is always one non-obvious clue, one non-obvious slip-up, and only one that you don't get until the very end, when it is time to go to the lockup, because they have been shown to be yet another fool in Columbo's grand scheme. And the pilot episode for it is really crazy because Columbo is super serious. It's the one episode you'll ever see where he plays his deck right on the table, and it's because it's the inception of the character. The second episode is where he's playing the humble fool, but the Columbo method was introduced to me through this series, and it's one I live by and I'll die by, is always keep your cards close to your chest and never reveal them until you have to. So, at this point, Ricky has learned how to find clues, how to interrogate suspects, how to piece together motives and sensibilities. He has figured out how to read tells. He has figured out what goes into the mind of a criminal. What's it like on the inside of a crime ring? What's it like thinking about everything? All of this in tandem and solving a mystery. And finally, he has learned to hold himself as a detective. All of this on this impressionable youth of Ricky T. Bones. And you know what? It works. It works in everyday life. Because, like, I have only met good friends because I choose the people I talk with carefully. I have a really good sense of people's intentions now because I grew up with all these mysteries. It's also a double-edged sword because now I really keep people at arm's length a lot of the time. But Columbo wasn't just the only thing I grew up with when MeTV hit the airwaves. Kolchak, the Night Stalker. This is my favorite genre. Yeah, I'm a bit jaded because I absorbed like a sponge. Exactly. Kolchak is mystery horror. He is the original Hunter, if you've ever heard of Hunter the Vigil. In a world of supernatural horror and terror, vampires, Aztec curses, everyday Chicago life is being haunted and stalked by monsters. And only a lowly reporter who can barely keep his straw hat on is the defense against that world and ours. It's told from a narrative perspective, but Kolchak is very clever. He is confident. He acts like he belongs everywhere he goes, and he has all of the research capabilities that it could possibly ask for. He dips into the occult. He asks shamans. He meets all sorts of crazy people like gypsies, Chinese shop salesmen. He references the Bible. He's got crosses on him at a time. He's taken stakes at his side and hunted a vampire. He has done so much, and nobody believes him. So he writes these stories in his journal, in his column, and nobody believes him. They never will, and we are the only ones who see it for what it is. That is the beauty of Kolchak. And it's all just him. All just him and his like convertible Mustang that's always down. It's so good. It's so good. And it's a great addition. Like, it's a cold hit, sure. But it's a great addition if you like need an evenings series to put on. It's a great popcorn TV series. Reminds me of Supernatural and Grimm. Yeah. Just that mix of horror and mystery and fantasy in a modern day setting. That is what I live for. Like, I really want to host a Hunt of the Vigil, or like Call of Cthulhu is one that's definitely been on my mind a lot more than usual of recent late. But there's like Hunt of the Vigil, which is supernatural horror in a modern day setting. There is what's it called? Vampire the Masquerade, which is also another modern one, but it's too grungy for me. What was it? World of Darkness is just one I've been really interested in, but aside from that, what else we got here? Ah, yes, Cry of the City. This is my favorite black and white noir film. This is a movie about being on both sides of the equation. You've got the man in the trench coat here, who is... I forgot his name. But essentially, it is a childhood rivalry turned into life and death scenario. He is a man on the run, and he's trying to retrieve stolen goods from a lockbox that he stashed away a while ago. And his childhood friend, Candela, is the detective trying to hunt him down. And it is such a wild thriller. No real mystery here, but it is about putting the law above your personal feelings and seeing it to the end. Because Candela is a madman about this. He fights tooth and nail to chase down his old friend. And when the push comes to shove, he has to make a choice whether he wants to honor that history he has with him, or shoot him in the back. And I won't spoil exactly what happens. It's definitely a noir film you definitely want to check out. The Sam Spade Mysteries. This is where I get my love for radio play style presentations, like with my debuts. Sam Spade, for anybody who doesn't know Sam Spade, it is an old radio show that aired in like the 30s, maybe 20s, maybe even later on. And I have a compilation of the CDs. I have a compilation on a CD, but essentially it is a dictation, a narration, if you will, by Sam Spade of whatever recent caper he's got to his secretary. And he's always told at the end of his mystery, and he starts from the very beginning, and it's a wonderful detective story. Because all you have to work on is what you hear and what Sam Spade narrates. So all of the clues are handed to you by word. And he gets into all sorts of crazy stuff. Like he is a private detective. He is one of the original PIs. And he is full of charm. He's got his own right hooks as per usual. And he solves murders, thefts, and he has such amazing debacles that he gets into. Like, what is it? He falls in love with a girl and then falls out of love with her. He goes on to Alcatraz Island to meet up with a rich man who's trying to figure out who's trying to threaten him. He solves a multi-person murder where several people are poisoned. Like, there's just a huge backlog of insane mysteries that could have only happened in the time. It's a wonderful little time capsule there. And now we get into the nittiest of grittiest. LA Confidential. I can't talk about this film because it goes all sorts of places. But my love for mystery movies is never satiated. I have not seen enough of these films, and they're so good. The acting is so good. Like LA Confidential. Oh, okay, I have to talk about this really quick. So LA Confidential is pretty bad, yeah. LA Confidential is pretty bad. Lucifer. I plead the fifth. But I did almost finish this series. I still have to finish it. Lucifer is kind of a gimmicky one like Gotham, but it's not one to watch in front of the kiddos. Let me just say that. And I outturn my say-so reputation with this reveal. But the reason I enjoy watching it is because it is religion infused. This is the sun, this is the devil. This is the devil we're talking about here. And he goes up top because he's bored of running hell. Who does he run into? A plucky detective trying to make their way through the LAPD. And so, to amuse himself, Lucifer becomes an assistant detective, or a consultant, if you will, while he runs his own nightclub, his own ring, his own side of the crime business. Like, he is the insider. He is the devil. Sin is his forte, and the City of Angels is full of it. Now, if that's not a selling point to you, I don't know what is. But it's raunchy, it's Fox, of course it's raunchy. It's Fox Entertainment. But it's so intriguing when you look past, like, all the sensuality that I hate. And it's got deep characters, all the actors really love what they're doing. The main character here, the main actor is fantastic at engrossing himself in the character. Being playful, being mean when he needs to be. And there's so much heart and soul in this series, and so much delving into the supernatural and biblical lore. It really tests your knowledge. Like, it's not just murder mysteries and figuring out who done it. Like, that's a great part of it too. But it's also overarching stories and storylines and characters. God himself at some point makes an appearance. I recommend this series with a very big note that you should not watch it if you're, like, squeamish to the usual TV sensuality and of course gore and violence. A lot of fun forensics nonsense in this series. And of course we bring us up to modern day. One of the very first series I streamed as Cupo Joe during Halloween, actually, was like that. Halloween was like my debut month. I debuted in September 18th. My anniversary is coming up soon, actually. I think that's going to be, what, 3 years maybe streaming now? 4, I think, actually. Nice number. And this was one of the first series I got. And again, it's a wonderful point-and-click adventure game. Witty writing, occult, obviously. The dark side is basically the world we live in, but full of spirits and demons and flip sides of ourselves. And it's leaking into the world we know. It's a supernatural investigation mystery, and I hope to someday complete it on this channel. I might have to revisit it, because not a lot of people know about this game. And Dooley, Officer Dooley on the right side is such a Chad. I need to replay it just for him. And now we come to the most modern stuff I know. Knives Out. Directed by... what's his name? He's the same guy who did... Rian Johnson, that's right. Written and directed by Rian Johnson. It stars Daniel Craig, way out of his element. Daniel Craig plays a sort of whimsical, southern twanged investigator. I'm not sure where he's from. I think he's supposed to be from Louisiana. And it is a classic whodunit. And it's all about a family who all have motives and are willing to do anything to get the inheritance they rightly deserve. And it's star-studded. Every character feels so individual. Like, they all have their own quirks, reasons, wants, desires, animosities, and they're all so brilliantly concocted together. As for the investigator himself, once again, the Columbo method comes into play. He is whimsical. He sits in the shadows, not really considering himself to be a major player in the whole shebang. Instead, he waits off to the side to see what they do, and when he has a lead, he follows it to its end, to the end of its wick. And it gets so crazy. I can't talk about anything about this movie because it's on Netflix. If you got Netflix, go watch it. Go watch, for that matter, The Glass Onion, because that is also a stellar mystery. And it's all about character, these two mysteries. It's all about character profiling and watching what they do. Like, all of these people could have done it. That's the big deal about Knives Out, is that all of them could have done it. But it's up to you to pick out the clues in their acting, in what they do, what they say. You are given the breadcrumb trail, as much as Daniel Craig is. Much like normal whodunits. But the key factor is that everybody could have done it, and you need to pay close attention to their acting, to their doing, to every aspect of what they are. And it's also clever. It's also a really entertaining movie. Like, this is a revival of the whodunit series for me. And there's been a couple more, but not many. And that's why I'm really like happy with how the month of mystery turned out. Because I wanted it to be intriguing, I wanted it to be fun, and I wanted to really highlight all the great mysteries out there that are just sitting, gathering dust, not really being acknowledged because Call of Duty is out there, GTA 5, they all want to be criminals. What's wrong with being a good guy every once in a while? And this is the most recent one I've seen. Almost. This is the most modern one I've seen. See How They Run. Starring Sam Rockwell, and I forgot your name. I'm so sorry. Wait, isn't that... She's a really, really famous female actor. Woman actor. But she's on the... Saoirse Ronan, that's it. I don't think I'm saying that correctly, but Saoirse Ronan, that's right. She's stellar in this. She plays a up-and-coming investigator for the London police, and Sam Rockwell plays a laid-back detective. And the real shtick behind this one is amazing. Not only is it like another breadcrumb kind of mystery, kind of whodunit, but it all takes place in a theater. And a theater means everybody's a suspect because everybody's a great actor. But the real fun part about it is narratively driven by the flow. And the flow is dictated by the murder victim. What's his name? Adrian Brody is the dead man of the story. And we follow him up until he dies. And occasionally we go back to when he was alive, and when he's dead, he is just the narrator of his own mystery. And it's so good. It's so good. Because not only do we go into like crazy territory with the cameos, like David Attenborough, quote unquote, makes an appearance, it's really grounded in reality. In that reality of like, I think it's like 1940, maybe 1930? I'm not sure. But it's such a good whodunit. It's just such a good whodunit. You really don't have any idea of who's who, what's where, and it's a wonderful ride. You definitely need to go like check it out. But this didn't teach me anything. At this point, I have learned everything I need to know to solve a mystery. But even this had me on my toes. Even I didn't know who done it until the very end. And at the very end, the cheeky bastards, tell you, the audience, out of respect for those who haven't seen it, keep it shut tight. Once you leave the theater, you're not allowed to talk about who done it, because that would destroy the purpose, and that leads me to the final movie that I somewhat regret seeing and somewhat don't, because I really love criminal psychology. I hate true crime, but I really love criminal psychology. And how twisted they can become. Which brings me to my final and most recent whodunit I've seen, or rather, mystery film I've seen. 7. I love this movie. I love and hate this movie. Because 7 is beyond words of screwed up. This is a horror mystery. Don't get it twisted. This is horror mystery. This is grotesque. This is a deprived serial killer killing people based on the 7 deadly sins. And it gets so dark so quickly. And it all takes place in this rainy town. And it never lets up. The longer you stay in this movie, the more you start losing your sanity. I'm gonna be real. It is the peak of crime, true crime thriller. And I'm so glad I watched it like a couple years ago, but I never want to experience it again. Oh god, it was a great thriller, but dear god, it went places I didn't imagine possible in a cinema. It's an older movie, and it's memed to death. Like, there's a 2000 meme based off of it. But this one didn't teach me anything again. It just taught me how, like this and a bunch of other detective mysteries I read convinced me that I am not fit for detective work. like I said, true crime is not my flavor. I could never make it as a detective. I wasn't even physically fit at the time, so of course I wasn't going to make cop. But it's a horrid world to be looking at the underside of paradise. Like, I read a couple of true testimonials of actual police. Like, it was like a novel based on interviews with Chicago PD. And if you don't know what Chicago is like, they call it Chirac these days. It's a murderous town. It's a good town, but it's seen a lot of violence. It's seen a lot of violence in the past couple of years, and I don't know what it's like now, but it's a violent town from what I hear. And the police stories from there spooked me good. It's why I'll only play a detective on TV. Like, I'd like to keep my brilliant mind in its place, if you don't mind. But yeah, that is my history with mystery. It all started with an innocent little kid figuring out 5 mysteries at a time, and led all the way to what you see before you today. Detective Rickety Bones, out of the flesh. That's why I feel like I can solve the crimes around Gehenna, is because if I'm already dead, what's there to lose? So yeah, that is the gist of it. I got to ramble on about mysteries media for 2 hours. Holy shit. I thought that was going to take longer, but apparently not. I hope this was insightful, at least somewhat, into how I think. And I'll say this really quick, you know, no human being is one-sided, you know. Obviously, I didn't just grow up with mysteries to make me who I am. I had to have all sorts of life encounters. You fell off a window, so clearly you still take significant fall damage, true. There is still the factor of being dusted. It's not fun. Being bodiless and mindless sure isn't fun. But there are a lot of pieces to what makes me me. It's not just the mysteries I grew up with, you know. Like, the reason I love making people laugh is because I grew up with comedies like comedic geniuses like Gene Wilder, Robin Williams, and making each other laugh was a big part of how our family got through a lot of tough times. it runs in the family. You know, I have a love of sci-fi. I have a love of just inane kino films like The Portrait, starring what's his name? He plays Viktor Reznov in Call of Duty. He plays that one guy in The Foreigner. It starts with a G? Not Gilbert Gottfried, no. Anyway, there's just a whole lot that makes me me. And mysteries have been a big part of it. That's for sure. It's taught me how to go about my day, how to learn who to trust. Saved me from a lot of crazy situations. And it's still, to this day, my favorite genre. I just don't get a lot of chance to enjoy it. And so that's why this month came to mind. Like, I do Dismember December, I've done Spooktober, but doing a themed month around a simple genre never really came to mind until I thought, you know, a detective should be playing detective games instead of just nostalgia all the time. So why not do a whole month of it? And I wish this was the finale of it, but I got one more week to do, and that's gonna have to be after my mandatory break, sadly. So, I hope it was somewhat entertaining listening to a skeleton ramble. If you fell asleep to this, well, that's also a decent sentiment given how many sleep channels there are on YouTube. And if you just found it entertaining, thank you very much for listening. Especially to you Flash and Honeybee. Thanks for listening to me ramble. And to any lurkers out there, you are appreciated. Thank you very much for the likes, subscriptions, and listening to me gush about mystery. There's not much else to say, except I will be... I like listening to people yap. That's good, that's good. That's basically gonna do it for me. My voice is good and tired, and so is my mental capacity. I've been going non-stop into hardcore thinking this month, and boy does it show sometimes. But I got places to be, unfortunately, so I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up. Thank y'all for joining me. Thank y'all for listening. Thank you all to the VOD watchers who made it this far. And thanks for letting me be a nerd all of this month and do nothing but detective nonsense and still show up for it. It's really validating as somebody who doesn't think they can just do what they please and have people waltz by and say, hey, that looks fun. So, it's validating. Real validating. So, I guess I'll go ahead and wrap it up. So, thank you very much for watching. And I wish this wasn't the end. For some reason, but it has to be because I've got nothing else to talk about. I'll be back. Oh, thank you, Tadon Zero. Thank you for the happy birthday. Appreciate it. I won't be back until August 31st. So you're gonna be Ricky-less for a while. Thank you, Honeybee. But there's many more people I know who are fantastic entertainers. You got Glitch Phantom for all your gremlin needs. You got Anadelna for casual viewing. You got Sky Accents for hot topics and nonsense. And of course, you got the Orion Twins for all sorts of good nostalgia. You got all sorts of people to watch, so I'm sure you'll be in good hands while I'm gone. Just gotta take care of family business and maybe some more stuff that just popped up. And of course, fingers crossed one of these days I get a job. But until next time, y'all. Memento vivere, memento mori, and enjoy writing your life story as much as I've enjoyed reading them. Have a good night, y'all. And see ya in September, technically. Bye-bye.